God, the pain of setting this up. Is my microphone even being captured right now? Okay, it is being captured. It's just being weird. Anyway, welcome to the game. Oh, sorry, I forget that I can't walk in real life right now. Okay, I think we're set. So, welcome to the stream. My name's Kaijucon. About a week and a half ago, I participated in Vtuber Tiny Jam 2026, 10-day game jam where everyone tried to make a game. I made a boat game called Ocean War. You can find it on the itch.io page. And today I just want to kind of recap how that went, what my thoughts were on the event, and then what I think I want to do to do better. So we're just going to do a little bit of that, just kind of chat through it a little bit. This is more for my entertainment than yours, I'm being honest with you. I love talking about this stuff. I genuinely don't care if it's entertaining to anyone else. I'm not used to this software's hand tracking, so if I make weird hand poses, apologies. I'm using Virtual Cast, and I've only toyed with it. And not gonna lie, setting it up the stream was a bit much, so we'll probably only do this maybe once or twice. But anyway, how about we just start somewhere small? So, I'm using a whiteboard because it helps me talk. So let's start with, oh man, I'm gonna regret doing this, aren't I? Yeah, this is gonna be a great stream. This is gonna be a very good stream. Can we put a number 1 here? Yeah, sure, that works. Maybe I should shrink this down a little bit. That'll work for now. Anyway, preparation. Oh, my headset lost connection for a second. Not gonna lie, I literally went into the event just kind of going, I feel like doing another game jam. And I literally signed up, I think it was 2 weeks before it began. Man, my handwriting is freaking fantastic stuff. But I signed up 2 weeks before the event. This is going to be a great stream. I signed up 2 weeks before the event, and I literally signed up not knowing what kind of game I was going to make. I hit sign up on the itch page, and it was at that point where I literally was just like, do I have any game ideas? I don't have any game ideas. No ideas. So going into the event, I had no ideas. No ideas. I'm literally turning in real life again. This is going to be really bad for me. Whew. Let's put some dots next to that. Yeah. Yeah, so talking about the prep phase. Where do I want to put this? I don't know. Up here. 2 weeks before the event started, I signed up, and I literally had no ideas. I was like, I don't know. I just want to do another game jam. Game jams are fun. Game jams are cool. Sorry, I'm distracted by the fact that I have chat way over here because it looks great for you guys, but on my end, I have to like turn really far to see. It's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. I had no ideas. Like, the last game jam I did was Spooky Jam 2026, and that one I made like a Nikkei clone, which was fun. I had fun with that one, but I definitely struggled because I just didn't know a lot about... Well, I knew about Blender. I forgot about how to use Blender throughout that time, which was really bad on me. And I was still, quietly working on Cafe de Arms behind the scenes. More on that in a minute. And I was just like, what do I want to work on? What do I want to work on? And that's when I remembered something a buddy of mine told me. He said, hey, have you heard of this game called Naval Ops Warship Gunner? And I was like, no, I've never heard of this game in my life. I think he was telling me this in November of last year, like a little bit before Thanksgiving. He was like, have you heard of this game? And I'm like, no, I've never heard of this game. So he started recommending I look it up. So I looked up some YouTube videos on it, and it's like obscure naval warfare game from 2003 on the PS2. And I was like, I don't play vehicle games. The only game I really liked on the PS2, because I didn't have many games when I had one, was Star Wars Battlefront 2. I played shooters. I love shooters. You guys can tell by going through my channel content, I guess. And I was like, I've never heard of this game. And he's, what's the hook? Why should this game be, remade? And he goes, oh, well, the ship customization is sick, and no one's ever done it before. I was like, the ship customization? So, that's the other thing, right? Obscure. We'll write the word obscure. Obscure game idea, right? That was the next challenge. It's like, well, I don't know anything about this game. So I started doing some, watching some YouTube videos and whatnot about this game. And it was really cool. You get to place your guns anywhere on the surface of the boat, and you get deployed into missions to just take out the enemy. It's basically boat EDF. And I wish that comparison was in my head when I started the Game Jam event, because it wasn't. It just wasn't. It was just like, this is a boat game. I gotta make a boat game. I've never heard of this boat game. Does anyone know about this boat game? Anyway, so here are the 3 challenges, signing up way too soon with no ideas and with an obscure concept. But there was one final challenge that I had to overcome. Oh. I'm gonna have to crouch in real life. This is gonna look weird for you guys, but trust me, it feels weirder for me in real life. Am I safe? I can't. Oh no, my glasses are fogging up. Okay, I think it's safe. I'm gonna have to watch this VOD back after the stream and be like, what did I look like when I was doing this? 90% of the time. Okay, let's put this over here for now. Planning. This was the fatal mistake throughout the entire event. This right here. Can I point? This. This right here screwed me the most. Sorry, I don't have leg motion capture turned on. That's not gonna happen. So we had conversations with this buddy of mine and I, the same guy who planned the Cafe des Armes, actually, funny enough, the same guy. He said, hey, I have a copy of Naval Ops Warship Gunner and a working PS2. Maybe we can get together and play it in real life so you get an idea of how the game works. And I was like, oh shoot, yeah, that's freaking amazing. When can we do that? Well, he was in the middle of remodeling his house, and he's a strong working man. So it was kind of unclear when that would happen. So we planned out a day to do it. And then the day of, he was like, not a shot, bro. Not a shot. It's busy here. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll figure something out. So I think it was 2 days. Can I do the 2? 2 days before the Game Jam event. We got together in a Discord call, and we just kind of talked in broad strokes about the game. And that's where if you watch the stream at all, the Vtuber Tiny Jam streams, that's where the freaking design document that I wrote came from. Was just that call. I had one call to plan out this entire project, and I was like, oh shoot, man, that's tough. But not unexpected, if I'm being honest. I kind of knew that going into this I wasn't gonna have everything planned out. But yeah, that's the prep phase. That's what happened in preparing for the event. And that's where the first set of issues started coming from. But there's one more thing that went into making Vtuber Tiny Jam 2026 harder for myself. And it comes from something that I think I might have talked about on stream, and if I haven't, apologies. But Grab my little marker. Where am I in real life? Oh, I'm about to kick my desk. All right, time to do the awkward crouch one more time. Oh, what did I just punch? I'm still facing my desk? Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's turn away from my desk. Get a little closer. There we go. To UE. Oh my god, this is getting more awkward by the second. This might have been a bad idea to do as a stream. Projects. Yeah, there we go. Yes. Okay. I have a lot of whiteboard space down there, don't I? Anyway, this game jam was not my only Unreal project during this time period. Without getting too into it, I somehow finagled my way to becoming an Unreal developer at my job in real life. And what made it really interesting was I was using Unreal Engine version 4.27, Unreal Engine 4 for the game jam, but I was using Unreal Engine 5 for work. And it was so bizarre because a lot of the fundamentals I learned from doing UE4 would transfer to my work in Unreal 5. But my Unreal Engine 5 work would also still transfer to here, to my Unreal Engine 4 project. And it was just like, I'm juggling two projects at the same time. I'm getting paid for one and I'm not getting paid for the other. This is wild. I'm learning so much about Unreal. It's crazy. And it was really insightful, really, juggling these projects together. This one's done, obviously. My Unreal Engine 5 project is still ongoing. I'm projected to be working on it for at least the next year for work, so that's kind of cool. But I probably should say this. My work does not interfere with my streaming schedule whatsoever. I literally stream outside of my working hours on purpose, so that way they don't have any schedule conflicts. There we go. Conflicts. My real life fists are further apart than my virtual fists. Yeah. But yeah, all of this before I even talk about what happened during the game jam. This really was a wild event for me. And like, this is just like the start of it. So now we're finished talking about the preparation phase, like everything that went on before the freaking game jam. Like, this is everything. But there's one more thing I could talk about real quick. Let's change the color. Yeah, blues look good. Let's write some good things that I did to prepare for the event, right? Schedule. Thanks. And all right, we'll go through these one at a time here. Am I out of the way? Yeah, I'm out of the way. Cool. So, the very first thing that I did right in preparation for this game jam event was actually schedule my streams in advance. I scheduled my streams in advance. I scheduled my tweets in advance. Hell, I even planned out how I was going to manage my IRL stuff around the game jam events, because I did have some IRL stuff that kind of conflicted with my original intended schedule, but luckily I was able to schedule the streams around that. For breaks, pretty straightforward. I didn't stream for too long on any given day. I made sure to take breaks on the longer streaming days. And during said breaks, I did exercise. Now, this right here sounds silly, right? Why would you need to exercise during a game jam event? You're supposed to be developing the game with that time. Well, I don't think I ever talked about this on my streams, but the end of every game jam event for me has always been like, I'm sick, God. And it was because I ate crap. I didn't exercise. I was always tired. I was just sitting for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And so to make sure I avoided that this time around, I made sure to do exercises. And you probably saw a little bit of it on the longer streams where I did, jumping jacks. I did some stretching. I can't do leg motions, but I did lunges. I did squats. It was pretty fun. And genuinely, like, by the end of the game jam, I think I said it during my stream too, I felt pretty good, all things considered. Like, yeah, I was tired the day after, it all came crashing down the next morning, but I was fine that week. I didn't have any health issues. I've been maintaining that light exercise routine since then, once a day. And for those who are, new to the stream or new to my content, it was basically one set of different stretches, hands over your head. It's not going to show very well because I don't have body tracking, but lean and lean for 5 to 10 seconds each. Do arm across, 5 to 10 seconds each. Ooh, I literally stretched before the stream, and I felt like I needed to stretch again right then. And then I would do 50 jumping jacks, 25 to 50 squats. I know I did some other stuff. I just can't remember it right now, but I guess it doesn't really matter, right? But yeah, it's been great. It's a great way to kind of like maintain your health, even when you're eating garbage food, because at least you're getting the blood pumping. It was good. I'm glad I did this. And that's everything I did to prepare for for Vtuber Tiny Jam. So let's talk about the jam itself. And we're going to go high level here. I'm not going to pull up my VODs and like go point by point. Oh, why'd you do that? No, we're just going to talk about the things I remember off the top of my head. And just talk about how the event went, because it was fun. It was fun, and I want to talk about it. So I think, yeah, that's how you erase the board. Hey. Okay, let's get... Can I get... Oh shoot, I don't think I looped my music. Yeah, I did not loop my music. Give me just a second to fix that. I think I have it on the wrong window. Yeah, I do. There we go. All right, back to it. Let's do red. Just so we have some different colors going on here. So let's talk about, pull the board down. Yeah, something like that should work. Let's talk about the jam itself. Jam active. I'm sliding away from the board as I'm doing this. Activities. Okay, so we'll use green to denote things that I maybe struggled with or did wrong, and we'll use blue to denote things that I did pretty well, and we'll use red for topics maybe. So let's talk about, I want to talk about stuff I did toward the end of the jam first and kind of work my way backwards, because I feel like that's where most of my pain points came on in terms of polishing. Whereas like the other pain points earlier in the jam are just kind of like things I always struggled with. So let's start with this topic. Am I going to be off screen if I do this? A little bit. Okay, sound effects. Sound design is something that like I've never really been good at and never put much thought into. Like even when playing other video games, like sound design is something I don't think about very often. And it's a shame because like sound effects are huge. Like the obvious example is going to be like, oh, think of all the music you love in video games, right? music really does define games sometimes. And I just don't know how to make music. So one of the things that I tried to do this jam was try to use 1-Bit Dragon. Yeah, that'll work. Let's walk over here. So 1-Bit Dragon is a software that I kind of know how to use, but like, you know, you can know how to use software all day long. If you don't know how to freaking make music, it doesn't matter what software you're using, you're not going to make good music. And I think I spent like an hour and a half on that. And that's an hour and a half more than I probably should have spent on it, considering I have no experience, no practice, no nothing with it. And I ended up going to YouTube's audio library anyway for music, which, like, that's fine. But maybe should have done that sooner, or at least plan that out. Because then I think I spent like 30 minutes to an hour just browsing YouTube's audio library and just being like, oh, what music should I pick? Like, I didn't even have a theme in mind of what kind of music this game would have. Actually, let's just change that to just say music. Just do music. Yeah, music is something just like nothing. I got nothing. Sound effects, like when we're talking about like the gameplay effects and whatnot, I'm not necessarily going to say like I'm proud of what I put in the game. Because like at the end of the day, I just used a really awesome sound pack that I used for Cafe de Arms. Snake's awesome weapon sound effects, I think is what it's called. It was a good pack, honestly. If you don't know sound effects like I do, I recommend it. But yeah, sound design is something I'm very weak at in general. And it's something I want to improve on. So I think when we're in like the next polishing stage for the next game project, I think I'll need to put some actual effort into learning sound design. I know that for shoot, what was it called? Spooky Jam 2026. I actually grabbed my airsoft guns and recorded myself reloading them for the reload sound in that project. And that was fun. But again, I didn't know much about audio. I had the gun way too close to the microphone. I didn't know how to lower levels properly in Audacity. Hell, I didn't even know what file format it was supposed to be going into Unreal. So that's going to be something I need to work on in the future. But yeah, that was something I struggled with in the game jam. Testing. We should write that down. Where's that? Here we go. Oh, shoot. Time to crouch in real life again. Yeah. Okay, testing. So something I didn't do a lot of, and I really should have during the event, was testing. Basically all I did was just like, does the mechanic work at a surface level? Yeah, cool, move on, we're done. We got other things to do. That is not how you're supposed to do things at all. Some of you might have heard this concept from like game design courses, or maybe you heard it from Soviet Womble. This is where I'm getting it from. But there's a lot of ways to do game development. But one of the more like common methods is to use a circular method, you know, design, build, test, design, build, test. And what that basically means is you come up with the design for the mechanic. That's step one. Then you build it, you know, code it up, put in the assets, make it work, make it function. And then test, where you do some iterative testing to see, does this work? Does it work if I do this? Does it work if I do that? And then once you reach success or failure, either way, you go back to the design phase and start all over again. I didn't do that, and I've never done that. My game jam events have always just kind of been like, oh yeah, the mechanic works, let's move on. If we find more bugs, we'll fix them later. And that's just not great. Truth be told, it's something I'm still trying to like learn. So when talking to people about my Unreal projects as of late, I've been kind of like trying to at least say it once in a conversation: design, build, test, design, build, test. Not so they can get it, because I'm going to be real, I don't know many people in my life that program, period, regardless of language. But by saying it out loud, I hear it too. It becomes a lesson for me to take with me. So here's hoping I learn from that. It's another thing. There's a lot of things I struggled with during that game jam. Something I also rushed. 3D models. I rushed the hell out of those. Here we go. Now, people who watch my game dev videos will tell you, like, yeah, we know you suck at 3D modeling. You barely understand Blender to begin with. And that's true. On the other hand, though, also, you know, once I learn the tools, like, I can get the hang of it. But then I don't actually, like, put in the time to actually make something quality. Like, the bow models were probably the best models in the game. And it was really only because I added, like, fake outlines to the materials. So that way I didn't have to worry about if the cell shader and the outline shaders were working on Unreal. And that's fine. That works. Except I found out literally the other day, Blender... So I was hand drawing... Can I do this? I was hand drawing the outlines. And it turns out I didn't have to. First of all, Blender has their own shader graph. I barely understand that, but it's something I'm willing to learn. But they also have a, like, line tool, like with other art programs. And I didn't know it existed. I didn't know where to find it. I just assumed for literally years with Blender that you just had to hand paint all your textures and materials. That's not true. Literally, move the slider a little bit to the right, and there's something called, like, stroke, and you can change that to line. And that's just the painting side of the 3D modeling that I failed at, right? Because I forgot to even properly texture the turrets to match the art style of the boats. So inconsistent art style, inconsistent quality of the models. And using Unreal's terrain editor made the environment look pretty decent, but I could have also made something in Blender and it would look more uniform with everything else. So that's something I want to take to heart. You know, don't rush 3D modeling. You're barely making many models for the games that I've made, except for Cafe d'Armes. Oh my god. Take the time, learn 3D modeling properly, learn texturing properly, do better, right? The other issue, and I don't know how many people watch the Vtuber Tiny Jam 2026 celebration stream that the host Mossflower had. I was in the chat and he kind of asked me, you know, what was your experience with the Game Jam event? And this is going to be like, I got to make this like a really big text, because this is actually like, I think this is basically every game developer's issue, but like this is something I struggle with like probably the most, is I don't know why my fingers are painting the board too. There we go. And then down here. Make a big old circle on that. I think I just punched my chair. Scope creep. Scope creep is such a massive pain of an issue to have in game development. And it's like, it's such a simple concept, right? You have an idea. Try and stick with it as much as possible. But no matter what, in your head, you're just like, could make this cooler. I could make this so much cooler if I just add X or Y or remove Z. And it's just like, don't do that. I talked about it a little bit in Mossflower's stream when I was in his chat. But I grew up playing AAA games. Like, I know some people are like, oh, well, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and Xbox 360 AAA games were very, very different from AAA games of today. They're really not. Fundamentally, AAA games have the scope that they have because they have the team size and the timeline to accommodate that. I keep forgetting that because PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and certain Xbox 360 games are fundamentally pretty simple games for the gamer. You know, Call of Duty, shoot the dude, aim down sights, throw grenades, use melee. It's so simple. Need for Speed, high stakes on the PS1, drive fast. The cop cars might stop you. Like it's so simple in your head. It's so simple. And then you go into making the game and it's just like, oh no, this is complicated. Now, I kind of knew going into this project that one of the most complicated like aspects of the development was going to be adding the ability to put the turrets onto the boat, like anywhere, and then saving that transform into the actual combat missions. I knew that was going to be hard. What I didn't take into account was like keeping track of how many turrets the player is going to have, keeping track of how much ammo they're going to have, keeping track of how many points they're going to have. I didn't have a progression system in mind when I went into this project. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, we got to make sure that gun mechanic works. Oh my goodness, that was like the least of my issues. Like, how does the player unlock better and better stuff to motivate them to keep playing the game? Like, and then of course I was like, oh, well, I'm going to have the save system work like this. Oh, wouldn't it be cool if it actually worked like this? Hell, I made 3 boats to have 3 enemy types and 3 player class ships. I could have just made 1 ship for this game jam and nobody would have complained. It would have been fine even. But no, I implemented 3 boats. And I'm still not sure why I did that. Not to mention, you know, this goes back to the testing thing. The battleships and the cruisers, the final 2 tiers of enemy ships, couldn't actually shoot the player properly. And it's for a very simple and stupid reason. Yes, the turrets are properly aiming at the player. The projectiles are not fast enough to hit the player at the distance. Oop, I just smacked my controllers. The projectiles are not fast enough to actually hit the player from the distance that they are like told to shoot at the player from. So for example, like, let's say I want to hit that pointer over there, that black device, right? And my eyeballs are the raycast that like hit that, like I'm going to hit it with that. And I throw a tennis ball. If I just limp arm it, that's basically what happened with the battleships and cruisers. Like the projectile would never hit the player unless the player intentionally got too close. So they were basically non-threats. I found this out because I was looking at my code after the game jam and I was like, oh shoot, that's not correct at all. I also didn't tweak the cruiser behavior, I don't think. So now they behave like every other boat. Every boat behaves the same, fundamentally speaking. Shoot, I remember there was something else I wanted to talk about and I already forgot what it was. It had something to do with the Unreal aspect of the development, I'm pretty sure. Was it the progression system? No, I remember what it was. It had to do with Mossflower's live stream. Let me explain. I did not mean to grab the board. This is awkward. I want to clear the board. There we go. Okay. So, thinking like rather rationally, right? What does a game fundamentally need to have for the player to have fun, right? You need the hook. This is basically like the marketing, the gameplay gimmick that people see in the trailers. They're like, I want to play this game. You need to have... I'm just going to simplify this to art. You need a good visual design, so that way people can look at your game and go, that looks cool, or looks like my jam, right? But you know what you also need before you have, like, before the player even knows you have good gameplay? That. In a GDC talk back in like the mid 2010s or something like that, the combat designer, I believe he was, for Deus Ex, the reboot Deus Ex, talked about how during playtesting, people would just gun down all the NPCs because they had the ammo for it, and they just didn't have it ingrained in their minds that they should use stealth. There wasn't an incentive to do so. The solution was to limit ammo. And that was kind of like the first combat encounter became a tutorial on like, hey, you have low ammo. There's too many guys in the room. Now you have to sneak and use your ammo sparingly in order to get past these enemies. In the same way that, tutorializing combat is important, tutorializing the gameplay gimmick for a attempted remake of an obscure game from 2003 is very, very important. You know what Mossflower did when he played my game? He hit play, saw that there was 3 options for boats, but he only had 1 unlocked, and it was the rest were unlocked through armor points. He goes, okay, what are armor points and how many do I have? Well, all my text was white, so nothing stood out to him as this is the currency. Wow, what a bad blunder right off the bat from me. So he picks his boat, and he sees 3 options for turrets, and he sees that he can buy ammo for them, and they cost money. And he goes, okay, so I need to buy ammo with armor points. What is that? How do I get more? And how many do I have? Those were questions he all asked during that stream. And then finally, the most painful part of the stream for me, because I thought, okay, I'll just say it. He didn't equip any guns on his ship. He saw that he had ammo. He had 10 rounds in his basic turret. And then he hit play. And he loaded up into the first combat level with no weapons, but ammo. He has ammo for weapons he doesn't have. So he spent like, I want to say 10 minutes of the stream trying to figure out why he couldn't fight back against these enemies that were firing torpedoes at him. So in the moment, I panicked and thought, oh, it must be a bug. You have ammo, but you can't shoot. Oh, how I wish it was a bug. I did not tutorialize the fact that you have to click on the gun you want to equip on your boat, and then click where on the boat you want that gun to be placed. Tutorialization is super important in video games. It is amazing how underrated tutorials are in games. Good tutorials tell you about not just the basic mechanics you already know, but about the nuances about how this game wants you to play. For those of you who may not know, there's an old game called Might and Magic Dark Messiah. And Dark Messiah, if you just look at like random gameplay videos on YouTube, it's a sword fighting game. So you should fight with your sword, right? Well, no, if you do that, you will die. This is not a sword fighting game, Dark Messiah said. So what they did is in the tutorial, the very first enemy they show you, they tell you to kick it into spikes or off a cliff. I can't remember which one it is. But they tutorialized the fact that melee combat is not your only method of dealing with enemies. You have other options in the environment to enhance your ability to survive encounters. And that's why a lot of people who've played Dark Messiah love it as much as they do, because the game teaches them to play in a way that no other game really lets them do. Similarly, if you don't tutorialize the gimmick of your game, no one's going to do it. It hurts. It hurts thinking about it. And the worst part is, like, implementing a tutorial would have been easy. It would have been so easy. Literally, just make a widget that, like, has, like, either, like, a GIF or a video of, like, what the mechanic is, or have it do the typical RTS game thing where it has, like, it highlights a part of the screen that should be the focus and then directs your attention to where those elements get applied. I didn't. It could have been easy. I literally submitted the game an hour before the Game Jam submissions closed. I had the time to do it, and I chose not to do it because I thought, oh, surely people who are going to be playing my game are watching these streams, which is so egotistical of myself. I can't believe I let myself think that way, honestly, genuinely. Never, seriously, never make anything assuming that people who already like you are your only audience. That will never happen. Ever. Every time you make anything, it can be someone's first exposure to the medium you are participating in, or the first time they've encountered any of your content. I know this sounds obvious. I'm not saying it for you. This stream isn't for you. It's for me. This is my entertainment. I said at the start, this is for me. I want to rant. What am I doing? Why is this content? I don't know if this is content. Anyway, yeah. Tutorialization, very important. I need to ingrain that into my brain for the next Game Jam project or whatever project I'm working on next, right? Was there anything else I wanted to talk about? Oh, let's clear the board. There we go. The way I'm holding this is so awkward. Da, 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 da. There we go. Research. So, like, if you've been, like, watching the stream and hearing me talk about, like, the game I was remaking, you might think that I'm talking about researching the game I'm remaking. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about researching basic stuff about the tools you are using for your job, right? With Blender, you know, if I did 10 seconds of research, I would have found that, like, draw by line tool on the textures, which would have saved me so much time. Literally 3 to 5 minutes of research would have saved me hours of time. I think I spent, like, across two streams, across 2 streams, I think I spent, like, 3 hours texturing the boats. Just the boats. And this isn't even restricted to just Blender. When I was in Unreal Engine, right? Not even, like, during the Game Jam, I was at work. And without getting into too much detail again, right? I wrote this massive algorithm for my project. And when I say massive algorithm, I mean if you zoomed out of Unreal Engine's blueprint graph, you could not see all of it still. That's how bad it was. And I told myself, this is necessary. This is absolutely necessary for the project. You know what I learned? Literally 2 days after I wrote that algorithm, that Unreal Engine has a built-in way to simplify randomization or use Excel spreadsheets to make data tables that you can input and take out information from within a blueprint or within a gameplay instance in order to manage data. Similarly, I learned through just gliding through Unreal Engine YouTube, right? That there's much simpler ways to do line casts, capsule casts, ray casts, any of that. And I just didn't know. I spent all this time making such complicated formulas for how the enemies were going to shoot at the player and how the player was going to shoot at the enemies. There's so many simple ways. There are so many simple ways. I wasted so much time making all these functions and blueprints and all this. And it literally, I wasted so much time throughout the game jam just experimenting with things in the most complicated fashion when there are simple answers online. And if you've been in the programming community, I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times, but I'm going to repeat it for myself. Again, this stream's not for you, it's for me. Don't reinvent the wheel. If someone's already done it before, use it and tweak it to whatever you need it to be for yourself. And they say that because, crucially, the coding community is a community. It's a shared craft. That's why Stack Overflow is one of the biggest names in the coding community websites. That's why Unreal Engine has a freaking blueprints paste bin where people post blueprint scripts that they've put together for other people to use in their projects. Like, it's so simple. Do your research. If you don't have to reinvent the wheel, don't do it. And if you want to learn how to do it, take the time to learn how to do it. Especially if you know that's going to be like the hardest part of the project, right? It should be easy to research this kind of stuff. And I chose not to. Oh, excuse me. I should drink some water. I've been yapping for like almost an hour already. You can't see it, but what is that? Did it just save it just saved the whiteboard. Okay, well. Let me try and... There we go. I don't know how that saved or where it's saved. I'm gonna have to look that up after the stream. Okay, so let's clear the board. So I want to talk about what's next. What's next? Yeah, it's legible. It's legible. So let's put 3 options on the board real quick, because again, the stream's not for you, it's for me. I'm talking through my stuff. So if you guys remember last year, I worked on a project called Cafe des Armes for Vtuber Tiny Jam 2025. I hope I'm spelling this correctly. My buddy Joe named the game, and he named it something French. Where do I want to write this next on? We'll write it right next to it. Apparently I'm really close to my border. Oh, I'm about to kick my desk. That's why. Here. There we go. Ocean. And then for the last one, I don't know, we'll put 3 question marks. Yeah, that'll work. Cool. So I think I've talked about it on the stream a couple of times, but I do want to make one of these 2 projects into a full, like, feature complete game with actual, like, tutorial, progression, a gameplay loop that people would actually like to play. But also I'd like to actually upload one of these ideas onto Steam eventually, or like, I don't know, whatever platform allows me to sell a full game. For two reasons. Two reasons. Two reasons. Number one, obviously I'd like to see I'd like to make a real game. I'd like to make a real game that casual players can pick up and say, yes, a video game. I don't want to just put out like half completed stuff all the time. It's a pet peeve of myself. I know it probably doesn't show on my content whatsoever, but I have a bad habit of doing like incomplete projects all the time, and I'm trying to put a stop to it. It's a really bad habit of mine. So originally my idea was to do Cafe d'Armes for that. Well, I didn't have the skill set that I do now back then, and so essentially my blueprints became borderline incomprehensible to current me, especially after I took 2 months off of the game's development to kind of clear my mind and participate in other game jams. But you know what I'm saying, right? And Ocean War, this last project, right? This wasn't a request from my friend just for the game jam. I mentioned earlier in the stream that in November he was asking me to actually remake this game. To give you the full context, he loves the original game, Naval Ops Warship Gunner, and he genuinely believes that no other boat game has mimicked its mechanics to the extent or to the polish that this game offered, or the combat design in general just didn't match that vibe. So he asked me, when you have the skill set, can you remake this game? Now, do I have the skill set to remake the game? Sorry, I got hair in my headset and it's getting in my eyes. There we go. Do I have the skill set to remake the original Naval Ops Warship Gunner the way he remembers it? No, absolutely not. However, I can remake the gameplay. I can tweak it to be more what I would find fun. And also, it could be a great opportunity to grow my skills even further. Make more detailed boat models, better textures, now that I know how to do that. And hey, maybe come up with new mission designs. Because all my games, aside from... what did I call it? The Spooky Jam game that I made. What did I call it? I think it was Graveyard Monster Assault. It was something weird like that. But aside from that game, all my games are infinite loop games. They're roguelikes is a stretch, but they don't have an ending. They just you play until you die. That's what they were. Actually, Cafe d'Armes didn't even have that. If you died, you just kept playing at a deficit. So maybe not so much. Maybe not so much. But yeah. If you look at my channel now, unless you are watching this as a VOD, this is probably going to sound really weird now. But I've started scheduling. I scheduled a stream for Thursday to do more game development. And I think what I want to do is dedicate 1 to 2 days, So 1 to 2 days a week. God, that's weird. Yeah, 1 to 2 days a week to doing dev streams where I just work on game projects. So that way I have a motivation to get them done. It's a form of entertainment for you guys. And it allows me to see my skills grow over time as well. But that introduces this question. Which one? Cafe d'Armes still needs to be worked on. And I was working on it a week before the game jam, which probably not my best idea, but I was doing that. And this one, in my opinion, for now, the blueprints that I've created for the game are salvageable. I can still work with them. I just need to tweak them to be more efficient before I start adding more content and designing more aspects to the game. Which means that this has an easier baseline to start with, while this one I would probably have to do a full rebuild. Which I did. Again, I mentioned that I started on it. I didn't get very far, but I could start on it again. And then there's the third option over there. Is it just going to be something entirely new? What are you going to do? And again, this stream isn't for you. This is for me. I'm talking through my problems right now because I don't have an answer. And I don't expect you to give me the answer. I'm just going to talk through this, weigh the pros and cons, and then by the end of the stream, I'll know what game development I'm going to be streaming tomorrow. So, let's talk about... Man, it's been a while since I've worn a VR headset this long. Let's grab this. There we go. So, let's do this way. We'll just draw a line here. And let's just start outlining what would need to be done to make these games fun compared to their Game Jam equivalent, or what would need to be done to start the final one. And we'll go from there. So, can I get out of the shot maybe and right? Maybe I can. Maybe I can. Okay, time to crouch in real life again. How close am I to any surfaces? Okay, I have plenty of space. Oh, my knees. So, for Cafe des Armes, it would need a full rebuild. There we go. It would need a full rebuild. That means blueprint scripts would need to be completely different. I would need to redo all the models and textures. And I would also need to completely redo the gameplay structure. And by that, obviously it needs to have an ending. There needs to be proper progression. Because just adding... I should probably talk about what Cafe des Armes is for people who haven't seen it. So Cafe des Armes was my project from Vtuber Tiny Jam 2025. And in it, you had two gameplay modes. You had day shift and night shift. During the day shift, you ran a coffee shop. And you used finite ingredients to serve customers coffee. That meant if a customer ordered coffee and you didn't have the ingredients for it, you just lost out on that money. But if you did have the ingredients, you got tips. And that tips would go to your currency pool to your upgrades. And then once the day shift was over, you move on to night shift, where essentially you hunt down monsters for ingredients using finite ammo. You start with, I think, 3 bullets. So you only really got 3. I don't know if you can do 3 on this. I tried. You only got 3 bullets. So you really only got 3 ingredients through the night shift at first. But as you earned money, you could buy additional bullets. It was fairly simple. It was just do well during the day shift and you get more bullets for night shift. Issue being that there was only so many monsters that spawned every night. The night shift map was super small, so you could literally hunt everything in like 5 minutes, and there was no other gameplay. And then for day shift, there was a whole host of issues. But peak among them, right? There wasn't really much to do when you served coffee. Now, I know hearing that you might think, well, coffee talk is just coffee. And it has a whole mode about that. Difference being is that coffee talk does have additional gameplay things on top of that coffee mechanic. You got the cafe latte art. You had, mixing recipes and whatnot. You had characters. You had people that had unique dialogue. My customers just walked up and told you the 3 ingredients you need. That's kind of boring because you don't have to memorize anything. They just tell you what you need. It's Simon Says. And, the economy for the upgrades, right? You only upgrade how many bullets you carried. That's not much. There's not much going on. So, obviously, full rebuild. You need to redesign the whole systems. It would basically be making a new game from scratch. However, I do have the hindsight of... I should use a different color. Let's use blue. for good stuff. I do have new, we'll just call it insights. And then we'll put under that second chance, because it is another opportunity to demonstrate how far I've come since that game jam. Second chance. Ugh. Yeah, so that's the con and that's the pros. Because otherwise, that's pretty cut and dry. That's what would need to be done to do Cafe des Armes again. It would probably take some time, especially since Cafe des Armes requires a lot more models. That's probably another thing I should write down. It does require more models. So, I'll just put more assets. More assets. Yeah, you would need to do a full rebuild. It would need to make more custom assets for the game. However, I have new insights into Unreal Engine and Blender, and it'd be a second opportunity to demonstrate my skills. That would be the only reasons to do or not do Cafe des Armes. It's very simple stuff. Now for Ocean War, it's a very different story. So let's start with the con that I think is the most obvious to myself. I'm safe to crouch? I'm safe to crouch. So you know what? Let's use a different terminology for this. We'll just call it unfamiliar design. Wow, I chose really long words for this. Unfamiliar design. Oh, so that's what it looks like when I'm crouching like this. It's not too bad. So obviously, the first major con to working on Ocean War is that I'm iterating on a design I'm not overly familiar with or even intimate with. You know, I would have to kind of get more familiar with like vehicular combat games, especially of that era, and understand their level design, progression systems, combat encounters, yada yada yada, all that fun jazz. Granted, if I'm being honest with myself, that's not a huge con. That's actually like whatever. Which actually brings me to some of the good stuff that comes from choosing to do this project, is that I have a strong foundation to build on. God, I don't want to use strong. I don't want to use the word foundation. That's what I don't want to use. What if I just used found? Strong found. Strong found. Nah, we might as well just write foundation. It's not that much longer. There we go. Strong foundation. We have a strong foundation to build off of, you know. We have the basic, like, boat movement, combat mechanics set up. They need to be tweaked, but it's not that big of a deal to tweak them. At least looking at it from, you know, I'm not touching this yet perspective. It doesn't look like too much work to work off of. So, not too concerned with that. I would need to redo some assets, which is a kind of a con, but like not really. Again, it's not too much different than what Cafe des Armes would suffer from. So, redo. Oh my goodness. Assets. yeah, I would have to redo some work on like 3D modeling, sound design, music, which I haven't even thought about how I'm going to do that yet. But I would need to do that for both of these, so it doesn't matter. Strong foundation, unfamiliar design, redo assets. Yeah. Was there any other pro or con to doing Ocean War? I mean, it's a niche. It's a niche project. Niche. Let's just do that. Niche. And then in blue for Cafe de Arms, we'll just put unique. Oh man, am I gonna have to lie on the floor? What does this look like if I lie on the floor? Do I have room to lie on the floor? I got room. Okay, on the floor. Oh my god, I can barely see. My model's in the way. Oh, I can't see it all like this. What does this look like? Okay, you know what? I don't have to do this. I really don't. You know what I can do? Because this is VR, I can just grab the board and do this. Make my life so much easier. Unique. Yeah. Cool. I don't know. Pretty much all of it for these two. So what would be the benefit of... I skipped my color. Here we go. So what would be the benefit of doing a new project from scratch, right? Well, obviously, start with the con. It would need a new design. I'm apparently reaching a boundary. Oh, that boundary's not that far away. What are you doing? It would need a new design. It would need new assets. But it would be a new opportunity. God, that's such a long word. Opportunity. There we go. It'd be a new opportunity. Yeah, that would basically be it, really. There's not really much pro or con to working on a new project from scratch, other than it's a new project that you got to do from scratch. That's pretty much it. So really, it just comes down to which of these three projects I want to work on for the next... I want to say give or take 2 months, but if I'm being honest with myself, it would probably take half a year to finish any of these. Well, half a year for these two. Am I pointing correctly? I'm pointing correctly, kind of. You can kind of see me. Either one of these projects would take at least 3 to 6 months to make into like a decent small game that a casual player would be like, yeah, that's a game. Whereas this could be like a year. So which one to do? Again, not something for you to answer. I'm talking through my problems. I'm trying to figure this out. I'll figure this out. And that'll be what we start working on starting tomorrow and into the next coming dev streams. I really like the coffee shop idea though too. And honestly, I've been building... I could talk about it. I've been building coffee shop themed assets so that way I can make a proper 3D environment to stream from. Because the last one I built was made using models from Pizza Poly, and while that was fun to do for an afternoon, I feel like my skills are high enough to where I can build my own coffee shop from scratch and make it really my own. And it would allow me to also kind of like make assets that are more themed to what I would like to have for... I don't want to say it this way, but I kind of have to. For my brand. It would be for my brand. So this one also has the bonus of, we'll write it down, goodness sakes. There we go. Let me grab that marker. We'll call it shared assets. Why not? Okay, cool. So there was more things we can add to this list. It's not a big deal. Is that off screen? That's kind of off screen, huh? Let's bring it down. A little bit. Little bit. Little bit. There we go. Okay, so yeah, Cafe the Arms has a lot going on in terms of why we should and shouldn't work on it. Redoing the assets for Ocean War, like, it's not that bad. Like, the turrets are fairly simple. I've always intended for it to have a cartoony art style rather than the realistic graphics that the original game, Naval Ops Warship Gunner, had. I just don't have the skill set to do realistic graphics, and nor do I... Okay, I do like realistic looking games. However, I don't play games because they look realistic. Because I play plenty of games that are cartoony, and I like them just as much, because it's not the graphics that matters, the gameplay. But in my case, having simpler graphics makes it easier to build the game for myself, because that's where my skill level's at. That's why, yeah. Anyway, not really on topic. I do have all the project files still saved on Ocean War. Hell, I actually installed a plugin for Unreal that allows me to export the game to Linux. So there's a Linux version out there too now, which is pretty cool for the Game Jam version at least, which means that when I make the full version, I can make it, when I release it on Steam, it would be playable on things like the Steam Deck, other Linux machines, so on and so forth. The only thing I still need to research is how to port games to Mac from Windows operated Unreal project, but I'm sure that's pretty easy. Unreal is very user-friendly for the most part, so I'm sure there's a really simple solution. I just have to look it up. Oh my god, I talk so much. Where's my water? Oh, it's behind the board. Can I cheese this a little bit if I just... I felt like I turned in real life. That was weird. Okay, my water is over here. I need to refill the glass too. Okay, this is my pitcher. Oh, it's really hard to see what level that water is at. Hopefully I didn't overflow it. No, we're safe. We are safe. I can drink water. If I can find the lip. There we go. Water. Very delicious. Okay, let me step away from the water. Check my 4 boundaries. Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, so anyway, what was I saying? Ocean War, yeah. If I were to do a new game, truth be told, I don't really want to do a new game project unless I'm signing up for another game jam, and I haven't even looked at what game jams are coming up in the next, like, 2 weeks. And I firmly believe I shouldn't do another game jam for at least another month anyway, for my sanity. Although that won't stop me from participating in a game jam during development of either one of these if it's like a smaller, maybe like a 2-day game jam. Two-day game jam. Shoot, what do I want to do? You know what? Let's stick with Ocean War and let's start designing it. Yeah, I think that's what I want to do. I think I want to work on Ocean War, and then we'll start designing it here. There are ways to save this, and also we can this. Aha. This allows me to take screenshots, and then it saves it, so I can literally, excuse me, oh my goodness, can literally like take a photo of the design board, save it, and that'll be my basics. Oh my god, I'm burping. It's really bad. I can save the designs of this whiteboard as an image, and then I can take it to my Word document later to make a proper design document for the project. So let's put that away for now. There. There we go. So let's start. God, the controls on this are so strange. Let's start designing Ocean War. There we go. Cool. Let's bring the board down. And we'll start by putting the title in the upper left for no other reason other than I feel like it. Ocean War. There we go. Okay. Oh, I see people in chat. Hold on. I gotta get closer to see. Step 1, ocean. Step 2, war. Step 3, profit. Exactly. Exactly. Wait, that sounds familiar. Oh man. Okay. So now that we've got our project settled, let's start using colors to denote different aspects of the project. So let's start with our tools. Might sound like a silly place to start, but by defining our tools, we'll know what our scope of work looks like. I kind of offhandedly mentioned earlier in the stream that, you know, I'm doing Unreal Engine work for my real life job now. One of the first things I did before I even notified my leadership that I was interested in this project was I made a PowerPoint. And the first three slides were things like, here's the scope of the project, here's what the finished software would look like. And then the middle chunk, I say middle chunk, it's almost like the rest of the entire presentation, was what tools I would use. So that way I could assure them of what I was doing, how I was doing it, and how much it would cost to get these tools prepared for me to do this project. And it helped them understand so much about the project without me getting super technical about it. So listing our tools is very important. So let's just start with that because it's fairly simple. Obviously we're going to be using Blender for our 3D models. So let's go ahead and write that down first. 3D models. I should probably try and write smaller, but we'll cross that bridge when we need it. Shoot, this is such a long board too. Blender. There we go. I need to move chat closer. I see the chat moving and I cannot read it from here. Here we go. Tools you have, tools you would like to use. That weird hammer in the closet, you don't quite remember where you got it. Oh man, my closet's full of airsoft guns, so that's not quite helpful. Here, let's move chat. Here, I have a preview window right here. I'll just put chat slightly behind it. Maybe here? How does that look from this distance? Oh yeah, no, that's actually way better. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Oh shoot, am I about to punch my desk? I'm about to kick my desk. Oh god. That's terrifying. Okay, so 3D models, we'll use Blender. Obviously our engine, we'll write game engine just to be specific. Our game engine. I would like to upgrade to Unreal 5, but again, only my laptop can run it, and I don't stream from my laptop. So we're gonna just maintain Unreal Engine 4 until I can get my computer upgraded after, you know, prices for tech goes down a bit, please. But yeah, we'll just use Unreal Engine 4.27. Just so that way we're being specific about the scope of our project here. Okay. Audio. Audio is something we need to focus on a bit. So audio. I'm going to put FX to be specific for just a moment, because I think it's pretty clear we're going to be using Audacity, but we're going to be actually recording sound effects for the project. Could, in theory, dev on the laptop capture it and stream it on the PC? I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, not in time for the first couple dev streams, for real world reasons. But if the real world stuff clears up really quickly, then yeah, we'll migrate to the laptop, beam it to my main PC, and stream it up. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. You know, it's not a big deal either way. I can program in both Unreal Engine 5 and 4. And most of what you learn in one transfers to the other. So anyway, audio effects, we're going to use Audacity. Audacity. Now when it comes to like some of the more mechanical sounds, like metal on metal or the water sounds and whatnot, I think it's easy to record those on stream. I don't think that's going to be an issue. But recording gunshot sounds in my apartment, probably not the best idea. I can't confirm what my neighbors think of me, but I'm pretty sure they think I'm a quiet recluse, and I'd like to keep it that way. I don't need them thinking I'm a psychopath. I do a good enough job with my friends on that already. So I think for that, I'll probably just take my airsoft equipment to like an open field, record me shooting them for a few minutes, and then I'll present those sounds on stream when I have the time to record that. But yeah, Audacity will be our tool of choice for adjusting and recording sound effects. Now, music. Music is where it gets tricky. Music. So, if you were in the second to last day of the... Was it the second to last day? I think it was the second to last day. The second to last day of the Vtuber Tiny Jam 2026 streams that I hosted, you'll know I used 1-Bit Dragon to try and make music for longer than I probably should have. I don't know if I want to repeat that, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know much about music. I learned how to play the xylophone in 5th grade, never practiced it again. I learned how to play the piano from 1st grade through 3rd grade, don't remember any of that, and I ain't got rhythm. So music is kind of like, I don't know. I may resort to just kind of like getting some copyright-free music, or, you know, depending on how finances go for and whatnot, by the later part of the year, I could commission someone to make music. But again, that's going to be like a financial question for like way later in the year. So we're just going to set that aside. But here's what we're going to do in the interim, just so we can cover our planning stage for music. I just punched my other microphone. Oh, when did I get so close to my desk? Goodness sakes. I swear I'm not moving that much. Okay. For now, we'll just put 1-Bit Dragon, because at least that's software I have on hand in case we want to try. And it's a tool that we have defined for ourselves as usable. So 1-Bit Dragon. Cool. So 3D models, game engine, audio effects, music. I do want to touch on. Here, let's just. Am I close to my desk? Yes, I am. Take a step back, then move forward, then crouch. Whew. 2D assets. So we're making a 3D game, right? So some people who may not know better will say, you know, if you're making a 3D game, 3D game, why do you need 2D assets? And it's actually fairly simple. I'm more referring to HUD elements, the shop, etc., etc. I'm not exactly happy with how the HUD turned out in the Game Jam version of Ocean War. Granted, you know, it was a game jam. It doesn't need to look great. It doesn't need to be superb. It doesn't need to be anything, really. It just needs to function. But I did have a vision in my mind of what that was going to look like if I had the time to polish it up and actually like draw some cool stuff, which I don't really have drawing skills. But I could at least try and make something more visually interesting than Unreal Engine's default button and fonts. So that's something I do want to work on when we do the full-scale project of Ocean War here, starting tomorrow. So luckily, I've been using Krita for the better part of... Shoot, when did I first find out about Krita? When I was in high school, I was using Clip Studio, but I've been using Krita for so long. Think you could model the HUD. Ooh. Oh my god, that's genius, actually. Hold on, I gotta think about that. That sounds so cool. So there's one issue. I call it an issue. It's just something I would have to learn. Truth be told, if I say there's an issue with like the scope of this project, it's going to be more so like I don't know if I have the skills yet and I would have to learn it through the course of development. So in other words, it's not an issue. It's a skill issue, but that can be resolved by learning and doing research. So with Unreal Engine, something I don't know how to do 100% yet, emphasis on 100%, is have the player interact with widgets in the world, aka UI, when it's in the world. Every time I design user interfaces, it's always been in the viewport, aka it's literally on the screen between your mouse and the real 3D world. That stuff's easy to do, but doing it from the player screen to the 3D world, that's something I don't know a lot about yet. I've tested a couple ideas on how it works, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I would have to experiment, but that does sound really cool. I've been doing that a bit recently, and it works surprisingly well in my test. You can render the thing you model as a sprite. Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, well, if that's how we're going to do it, then yeah, no, that's actually pretty easy to do in Unreal. Unreal Engine has a built-in sprite thing. I'm trying not to say sprite editor because that's not what it is. But you can import images as like PNGs and textures, and then you can convert them into sprites. And then you can take multiple sprites and combine them into a flipbook. So that way you have basically like a 2D animation that you can put on your HUD, which is something I do want to experiment more with. I learned a little bit about sprites when working on some Unreal projects back in like 2024, 2023. But I didn't stream back then. So I should write this down here. Can I saw like a floatable writing thing in here somewhere. Oh, that's massive. Can you even see it? Oh, you can't see it. It's an invisible... Okay, well, can I even write on this? It's not letting me write on it anyway, so I guess I can't use this. I can't throw it either. Okay, hold on. Let's put that away. There we go. Yeah, there's no other alternative. Okay. Real quick. We'll just write this in... Yeah, ugly pink. Way over here. We'll say... 3D... HUD... versus 3D. Oops. 3D sprite HUD. Yeah, there's a lot of cool ways to do that. I've seen some like, there's like YouTube videos where it's like, insert game engine concept project, like Unity engine concept project, Unreal Engine concept projects. I've seen a video of someone doing like a 3D HUD before. And at the time, because this was like 2022, I think this was still during like lockdown. But some guys had actually like made like an entire environment that was just in-world widgets in Unreal, and I was like, that's so cool. That must be a high skill level thing. It's probably not. I just probably need to do some basic research. The real challenge is going to be making it look good. But again, we'll experiment with that when we get to that point, because I love that idea. I want to experiment with that. That sounds cool. Anyway, 2D assets. We're going to use Krita because it's free and I'm very familiar with it. Oh man, I'm so glad I exercised before this stream, because now whenever I crouch, I just feel pain. Okay, tools, 3D modeling, Blender, Unreal Engine's our game engine, Audacity is our audio effects, 1-Bit Dragon is our music, Krita is our 2D assets. I feel like there's something else I'm missing, and I genuinely don't know what it is. I guess, oh, you know what? I'm thinking, because in my original design pitch for my real-world Unreal Engine project, I had to pitch what kind of hardware I would need. That's why I'm getting stuck. I'm thinking about hardware. We don't need hardware, because I already have it, and we don't need to talk about it. Anyway, that's all the tools we need. So let me... I know in Unity, in-world UI elements can be simple, as there is a world space canvas option. I do wonder if Unreal Engine has its own version of that, because Epic Games, the people behind Unreal Engine, they have a tendency of seeing something innovative outside of their offices and saying, we need that in our thing now. Like, I'm sure most people remember when Fortnite added respawning after Apex Legends came out. That's a more simplified example, but Unreal Engine has a lot of the same stuff that Unity has. I think the only thing that Unreal Engine doesn't have as good as Unity is the flexibility of like third-party tools. Like, if I wanted to import my VTuber model into Unreal Engine, I have to use this plugin called VRM4UE, and it's pretty good, all things considered. But Unreal Engine has a hard time recognizing animations for this VTuber model versus other VRM models, and that's a pain. I don't want to get too into it because it's not relevant for this stream, but just know that like you likely will never see me work on an Unreal Engine project with my VTuber model or any models using the VRM format. If I choose to learn Unity again, that would be kind of fun to do for a project, but neither here nor there. I did not mean to hit this button. This stream is so fun, but I also don't know if it's like entertaining. Hopefully it's fun enough for you guys. Anyway, we got our tools done, so actually, you know what? I do need that menu. Come back here. I need the camera. Let's take a picture of our tools. That way we can have more board real estate. Alright. Oh shoot, I'm gonna have to back up quite a bit. Nope, not that way. This way. Yeah, there we go. Oh. Out of the way. Take a photo of this. Ah, beautiful. Okay, we can put that away. Cool. Oh shoot, you know what? Because of how I'm gonna erase this board, I should probably take a photo of this as well. Cool. Now I can throw that away. Something I thought about doing, like before I started like properly streaming my VTuber stuff, was to essentially have a VR program in the background and then use Steam's remote desktop feature to like stream myself playing video games while I'm in VR. First of all, if you've seen how long my streams can get, the battery would not last. I would need to swap to a wired headset and get a better power supply for my headset just to survive the stream. But the other issue is that I do get VR motion sickness. And while that doesn't sound like it's relevant for when you're sitting down and playing video games, when you turn your head like this, and if there's any kind of latency because of your connection, that does cause like small fits of motion sickness. And by the end of the streams, I would be sick to my stomach. I did some test recordings with this setup. So I'm planning to only use these VR setups for when I'm actually playing VR games, or if I'm doing these chatting streams like this. Hopefully, I can figure out how to improve. I do have a motion capture suit down there, which does go around my waist and my legs. But the connection on that has been really inconsistent since I bought it, so I don't know if it's my environment or the suit itself. It's not a very expensive suit to begin with, so it could be just be I cheaped out too much. Anyway, that's off topic. Let's get back to the designing thing. Ooh, can I actually... Hold on, there's an easier way to do this. Aha! Look at this boy. Micro stutters and lag would do that to you? Yeah. Let's get this all erased. I just took a bunch of giant steps in my room. Hopefully I'm not going to kick my desk. I'm not going to kick my desk. Good stuff. That's what we like to see. Speaking of lag and stuttering, I'm seeing that right now. Probably because of how it tracks drawings in this program. Who knows? Okay, let's use a different color. Cyan? Sure. Okay, so let's talk about core gameplay. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking at that color, and I'm already getting a headache seeing a bright color on a bright surface. So we're not doing that. What other colors do we have? Can we use black? We can use black. It's not exciting, but it gets the job done. Has gotten the job done since the dawn of writing. What am I trying to do? Oh, there we go. Core. Game. Play. Cool. So, I did end up talking to my buddy Joe, who came up with the original pitch for this project before the game jam started. And he actually gave me some insights on what the core gameplay loop of the original Naval Ops oh my god, words. The original Naval Ops Warship Gunner game had. And when he told me the gameplay loop, my first response was, oh, it's Earth Defense Force. Which, if you haven't played Earth Defense Force 5 or 6 or 4.1, first of all, highly recommend it. They go on sale all the time. But secondly, the core gameplay loop is very simple. Players customize a loadout. They enter a mission. Kill everything. Everything drops loot. That loot becomes available for your loadout for the next mission. Rinse, repeat. It's loadout, shoot everything, loot, loadout. Is a fun series, yeah? Yeah, it is. So let's write down that core gameplay loop because that's going to be fundamental to the experience. So I'm apparently about to hit a boundary somewhere. Oh yeah, kinda. So we'll do customize, shoot, loot. Actually, that's all we really need to write. Customize, shoot, and loot. Now, what makes this loop fun for any video game is going to be the mission design. So that's the next thing we're going to need to cover, kind of. Let's break down each of these aspects first, because you can have a cool gameplay loop, but if you don't know what you're doing to make that gameplay loop fun, then that's just a loop. Like, Halo wouldn't be Halo if it was just shoot the enemy, right? So, let's start with, we'll call it a CSL. CSL. That way I don't have to rewrite these words in their entirety. So we'll start with C. And C is going to be 3 things. So maybe I should format this a little bit differently. Customization starts with pick a boat. So in our Game Jam version of Ocean War, we have three options. You have the small PT boats, you have the medium-sized battleships. Well, due to my incompetent scaling, it's not medium-sized, but you get what I mean. It's supposed to be a medium class. And then you have the cruisers. The cruisers are massive. After talking with my buddy Joe about the other boats that are available in the original Ocean War, yeah, we're going to need to expand the roster and give them more fun characteristics. But everything starts with picking your boat. We've got to pick our boat first. So next, in customization, you've got to pick your guns. Well, let's simplify it. Pick... I just stepped on something in my room. That's scary. Let's take a step back into my boundary. Walk back forward. Pick and place guns. Yeah, I don't think I got to mention this on stream before. The guns available in Naval Ops Warship Gunner are insane. They have like missile pods, they have rail guns. There's a carrier in the game, and it lets you deploy AI controlled aircraft that just automatically attack other aircraft and drop bombs on boats in the map. And I'm just like, that's insane. That's insane. That would be fun to do. We'll see. I don't know how to make flying AI in Unreal yet. That's gonna have to be a learning experience. Anyway, pick and place guns. Ooh, and then buy ammo. That'll be the customization in this full-scale project version of Ocean War. So that's customize. Shoot. So let's do... Do I want to crouch or do I want to raise the board? I want to raise the board. I don't want to crouch. Let's do this. Is that still in view? Yeah, that's still in view. All right, so customize, shoot. So this starts with, how should we do the mission structure? Let's do... fight. First wave. Fight. What do I want to call it? I don't want to call it second wave because this could be like a 3-wave mission or it could be a 6-wave mission. You want to crouch, leg day never ends. Fair enough, but I did squats before the stream and jumping jacks and stretches. I'm still gonna have to crouch anyway. This board's not high enough. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Fight first wave. Let's say fight. We'll just say fight more. And then here's an aspect of the game that I didn't get to put in the game jam, but I wanted to. Boss fights. There are boss fights in Naval Ops Warship Gunner. Oh my god, that's so cool. It's literally Earth Defense Force, but boats. So we'll just add fight boss. And this will be kind of like the mission structure for the most part. It's fight a wave, fight more waves, fight a boss. That'll be the mission structure. That way, and I'm going to emphasize this very carefully, not for your sake, for my sake. I need to hear this from my own mouth. We are not going to pull in EDF and implement 180 missions and then add a DLC with 50 more missions. That's not what we're doing here. We're going to release a small game at a small price, and it's going to have maybe 10 to 20 missions, and then a replayable mode for people who want more of the gameplay loop. Okay? That's why every mission's going to have a boss. You want more missions? You got to make more bosses. It's just that simple. You're not going to recycle bosses. You can recycle mechanics for bosses. You cannot recycle bosses. You hear me? That's me talking to me. You hear me? Cool. We're on the same page. Okay. Sorry. Again, I think I've said this like 3 times. The stream isn't for you guys. This is for me. I just happen to be streaming it because it might be entertaining. Okay. The loot. So Earth Defense Force looting is kind of unique. So to kind of like offer a simple comparison, in the Division 2, the loot doesn't disappear per se. You can leave it behind if you don't want the loot, but if the mission ends, you still have time to go back and loot things. So you can loot after combat encounters. You know, it's just a matter of, does the level literally block you off after you step out of the combat arena? Earth Defense Force is different because when the mission ends, you are just kicked out of the level. If you didn't pick up any loot, you lost that loot. It was just that simple. I don't want that. You don't recycle bosses. You give them a different hat, and now they are a regular mob. I know there's a lot of games that do that, but there's one game in particular that I always think of when I think of examples like that, and that's Code Vein. Because Code Vein, you know, it's a Dark Souls-like game. For the DLC, all they did was recolor bosses, recolor basic enemies, and recolor old assets to make new levels. Like, it wasn't new content. You were paying $20 for recycled content. And it was I'm so glad I didn't spend money on it. I'm so glad I watched reviews for that content before I bought it, because I almost bought the DLC when I beat the base game. But yeah. That'll be fun, you know, make new bosses and whatnot just to keep the game fun. Anyway, loot. EDF just kicks you out of the level. So if you didn't loot everything, you lost that loot. I don't want that. I'd like to have the player to have the ability to choose when to extract from the level, for lack of a better term, not to make it an extraction shooter. That's not what we're making. We're not making an extraction shooter. We're making a boat horde / loot shooter thing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to crouch. Am I safe to crouch? I'm safe to crouch. So loot drops from enemies. We'll just say baddies. Why not add a Bonsai Escape reference to this design document? It's not like I haven't already referenced it too many times already. Like return to a boss zone? Ooh. Something I wish more Souls-likes had was a way to replay boss fights. Given that this game is going to be mission-based, easy to implement. But not the point. So enemies drops? Oh my god. Loot drops from bad guys. Ooh, here's an interesting question. Okay. Hold on, let me stand up. Oh god. My knees. Ugh. Base, not boss. Like a return to base. Oh my god, I can't read. Okay, in my defense, okay? Let me show you how far chat is from where I'm standing, okay? So, here's the board, right? Chat is here. And I kid you not, I'm gonna try and... Okay, you see the stream. Like, you see this window. Chat is this big for me on that window up here. So, it's kind of hard to read. I can still read it. It's just, you know, I might become a little bit dyslexic due to the pixelation. And that's fine. We don't need to know how to read. We just need to be able to communicate. Lords of the Fallen has a feature that lets you rebattle bosses. Dude, genuinely, I do want to check out the Lords of the Fallen reboot. Because from what I understand, it's a better game than the original Lords of the Fallen. And I find that extremely fascinating because I do hold the firm belief that, like, bad games need good remakes. Because they tend to have really cool ideas and are just let down by bad execution. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Some games are finally adding features like that. Dude, it's almost like gamers are making games. We need more gamers making games. It's just that simple. Gamers know what they like to see. They actually play games, you know? Like, people who need to make games the most are the people who play both AAA games and indie games because they can see the scope of work but understand what to take from AAA games and what to take from indie games. Hopefully, they know how to combine them in meaningful ways, but at least we get new ideas based on that. They just added a bunch of features people usually have to mod in. Ooh. Didn't they announce Lords of the Fallen 2 as well? Like, they're working on another game for the same reboot? Like, I hope it does well. Deck 13 is one of those, like, underdog studios that I like to watch. I've only really played one of their games, but I love seeing them succeed because they are such an underdog studio. And also, if you're familiar with the YouTuber Shammy TV, like, he did a podcast with Please Stop Talking where he talked about his experience being flown out there after he made the most viewed video of the original Surge game, which was him bashing it to death because he hated it. Like, they have a sense of humor and they're very passionate people. I just love Deck 13. Seamless co-op randomizers and difficulty adjustment options. Really? I might have to play that for a stream. I'm planning on making weekends gaming streams and then any weekday streams being game dev streams. We'll see how that all works out. I'm mostly doing this because that's the schedule, like, that works best for me, while also not interfering with plans that my friends or family may have for me. So anyway, looting. So what I was going to say earlier about looting is, if you've watched my channel or heard me talk about games that I love, you know that I love looter shooters. I love the randomly generated stats for all my weapons and gear. It's just how I am. I played Borderlands 2 like 10 years ago, or maybe more now. It might be more now. And then Division 1 came out, and I loved it. I still play Division 2. I'll be playing that this weekend. Hey, look at that. Segway plugin. Anyway, but I know that that's not what makes games like EDF and the original Naval Ops Warship Gunner good. What's good about them is that they have defined loot per mission, so that way they have a consistent progression system that the designers have full control over. And it means that players can actually talk about build diversity by talking about specific loot rather than specific loot pools. So ideally, I think I want to hold true to that, even though I'm confident I could make RNG loot much more simple. But because I did research on how Unreal Engine does spreadsheets and how you can make and pull data from them to make loot systems, to make statistics, etc., 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 I think I can do proper loot. So let's write this down in 2 notes. We need to have predefined loot pools. We'll just write loot pools. And then we need to have, how do I want to describe it? How do people articulate defined loot? Games that have dedicated loot items. Like, is it just loot per se? It's not like randomized loot like Division 2 and Borderlands. Is it just loot? I want to have something that I would understand at a glance, and that's what I'm struggling with. How about I just call it designed weapons? We'll just call it designed weapons. So awkward. And then in parentheses, I'll put EDF, so I know what I'm talking about. EDF. EDF would absolutely have been awesome with randomized stats on weapons. Dude, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Oh my god. Dude, the way watching EDF evolve from 4.1 to 6 has been like, oh, you're almost there. You're almost to what I want. You're almost exactly what I want. My dream EDF game is like literally a couple iterations away if they keep up the way they're going. Oh my god, I love EDF. I love EDF. Okay, anyway, loot. Was there anything else I needed to write for loot? Loot drops from baddies, there's dedicated loot pools, and all the loot is designed weapons. Oh, armor points. We want armor points. I'm gonna have to get on my hands and knees for this one. Okay. Hopefully my model doesn't interfere with me. Okay. Armor. Oh god, it's gonna be awkward. Oh, I don't like moving while I'm on my hands and knees. That's so awkward. It feels so wrong. Armor points. Okay. Okay. Time to stand up. I'm putting my hands up. There's nothing for me to grab. Yeah, sure. Okay. Let's put that there for a second. Okay, so let's go through our gameplay loop. Players must customize, then shoot, then loot, and then restart the cycle every mission. It's only passing out a lot. Jeez. I can't wait to watch the replay of this VOD and see all the times I got on my hands and knees. Repair crates. Oh, you're right. I don't have a way to heal in game. Yeah, we're gonna need that, huh? I'm gonna lift the board. I'm not getting back on the ground for right now. Right here? Yeah. Repair crates. And we'll set this up here for a second. Bring the board back down. Okay, cool. That's back in frame perfectly. That's the last box in an EDF style loot. Yeah, I keep forgetting about healing, and I think it's because at the end of every EDF mission, I'm usually like not worried about my health. So I just look at health crates and go, God damn, why are you here? Why do you exist? I need weapons. I need armor. I know there's a way in Unreal Engine to control like what kind of loot spawns depending on the condition of the player. But item box, upgrade box, consumable box. Maybe we'll iterate on those ideas when we're actually building the game, because like the way I want to do this project is as somewhat faithful to the original Naval Ops Warship Gunner as I can be, since this is, I think I've said this once before, I'll say it again though, this is more of a project for my skill growth, but the end product is for my buddy who came up with this idea. So try and stay as true to the spirit of the game while also incorporating things that we would both enjoy. And I think having a EDF-styled boat game with those kinds of loot systems and progression is going to be probably the best way to go about that. So having the quote-unquote upgrades, I don't know how to... Yeah, the hand controls in this are weird. That's usually fairly simple regardless of the engine, weighing the loot based on what your character's health is at. Yeah, I figured it is. I learned how to do something similar for my work project. Granted, that's not a video game per se, but you know. Anyway, what was I saying? Core gameplay's done. We should capture our notes here. The hand controls in this program are really weird. Genuinely, when I was setting up this stream, I was getting so frustrated with it that I could genuinely consider my next project to be building my own version of this. And then I remembered I haven't even learned anything about VR development yet in Unreal Engine, and that's something I want to learn like way later on. So that's gonna have to wait. Especially since Unreal's not, you know, VTuber model friendly just yet. Let me back up. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to back up quite a bit. You know what I'm gonna do instead? Let's put the camera here. Right? Just grab the board and push it back. Right there should be good. Oh yeah, that should be plenty good. I wonder if I should have just streamed from VR chat, because that's also free. Oh, maybe not the time to ask this question, but I was browsing Steam last week and I saw a new software that came out. Let me see if I can pull up the name of it real quick. VR. Byte World, like Computer Byte World. Computer Byte World is a new like streamer software, and how it works is that it's free to everyone, so that way viewers can make their own like 3D avatar and interact in the world of the streamer. And then the paid version is for the streamer themselves, where they are in VR while everyone else is flat screen, and they can pick up their viewers, throw them, interact with them. It looks really cool, but I don't know if it's worth the investment considering how small, you know, the community is right now. Like, just to rattle off numbers, you know, on YouTube, we have 44 subscribers. Here on Twitch, I can't see my follower count right now, but I think it's at like 34. And not everyone, you know, is able to tune in during these live streams. So I don't know if it's worth the investment to do that right now. But if that sounds interesting, you know, let me know. Maybe that'll be a future stream of some kind. But for now, we still got some game designing to do. Take a photo of this. There we go. How do I pronounce that? Gino G. Quinn? Yeah. Hello, welcome to the stream. Okay, let's put that camera away. And then we'll clean the board to do the next design aspect. We still have plenty of time. I hope I'm reading that clock correctly. It's military time right now, and I'm kind of familiar with it, but I'm like not really. I think it's oh shoot, actually, is it 8 o'clock my time? Yeah, it is. I I don't want to end the stream, but this is also like we're reaching the end of our scheduled time. Well, we are at the end of our scheduled time, but there's still so much designing I want to do. I love game development. I don't know if you can tell. Is it over 12? Oh yeah, it's over 12. It's nighttime right now. It's 20 o'clock ish. Shoot. Well, we can erase the whole board. It's not a big deal. Let's just try an 80% speed around the remaining design aspects. Let me pull the board back forward a little bit. There we go. Subtract 12. Oh yeah, it is that simple, isn't it? So yeah, it's 8 o'clock my time. I have work really early in the mornings, so I try to be conscious of my bedtimes, but I genuinely love streaming game development. It's game development in general. It's something I've always wanted to do. I know I talked about this in my Vtuber Tiny Jam, not Tiny Jam, my 8-hour game dev summary video that I uploaded a couple weeks ago, but I grew up wanting to make video games, and every time I try to get into it, I would just get frustrated, impatient, and like trash my projects. So the fact that I'm actually making projects has been like so fulfilling, but also not, because now I want to keep making more stuff, and I genuinely have to like remind myself that I'm a human being who needs to eat food, drink water, and get healthy exercise and talk to people in my life, so that way I don't go insane and become a permanent hermit. So, tell you what, we can spend the next 20 minutes just doing one more design aspect for the game, and then we'll call the stream there. I'm trying to think though. We talked about the core combat loop. We talked about what tools we're going to use. What else can we talk about in terms of designing the game? Because like, I literally had it in my head throughout most of the designing stuff, and I totally forgot already. Maybe target features to learn. Maybe that's something we can write out. So let's type in what did I just kick? Oh my god, I'm at the edge of my border again. Okay, so here's my desk. Here's the other table. So at least arm's length away. Arm's length away from other stuff. Oh shoot, I'm drawing on the board. I need to clean my space so I have more room to do VR stuff, because I do want to do more VR stuff too. That's the other thing. Okay, let's do we'll call it target features. Why not? Target features. Yes. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we'll start small with stuff that we already know needs to be implemented and improved upon, which is our weapon customization. And I say improved upon because when I was doing the collisions for the boats, with the battleship and cruiser specifically, the hitboxes for like where the guns would be placed sometimes didn't line up with the model correctly. So it became kind of important to improve on that later on. Stretch features. The features you have to stretch up on your toes to draw. Look, man, I've got nothing. I've got nothing. We can shrink the board, actually. Let's do that. That'll help. There we go. Now it's easier to write on. Probably should have done this from the get-go, if I'm being honest with you. So, weapon customization. I'd like to add the ability to color the ships. I am 70% jokes by volume. That's why we keep you around, sir, Mr. Awen. I want to add ship coloring. Now, here's something I learned, and Awen, you can confirm with me if this is in Unity as well, but in Unreal Engine, it's actually a really common practice for if you want color customization to export your models from Blender with just a blank white texture so you can adjust the colors through sliders in Unreal Engine, or give said sliders to the players so that way they can adjust the colors in real time during a customization menu, which I thought was super cool. And I literally like tested this feature like, I want to say 3 weeks before the Vtuber Tiny Jam event. And I was like, oh shoot, this is so easy. Why didn't I do this before? And then I completely forgot about it during the game jam, which is, you know, perfect. But then again, last thing I needed was scope creep in that project. There was already enough going on there. So let's add ship colors. Now, from my understanding, the original Naval Ops Warship Gunner was not co-op. But wouldn't it be cool if it was? And it becomes an opportunity to learn about networking in Unreal Engine. Granted, we're not going to try and do like, oh yeah, 6v6 PvP. No. My target is to learn 2-player co-op because it also makes it easier to balance the game. Games like Gundam Breaker use that a lot. Oh, really? That's cool. But yeah, 2-player co-op would be cool to have. And then if, I don't know, if Unreal Engine networking kind of works pretty well, maybe we can look into expanding that to 3 to 4 players. I don't know. But I think targeting 2-player co-op is a reasonable goal for us. So we'll just add 2-player. Oh my goodness, my handwriting got really sloppy. Not that it's been clean this entire time, but you know. 2-player co-op. So weapon customization, ship colors, 2-player co-op. Those are all pretty decent features. The first 2 are things that I'm somewhat familiar with, and we can expand on them during our game development streams. And this is a brand new feature I would have to learn from scratch. Not a big deal, just kind of a learning opportunity. Is there any other feature? Ooh, you know what? I want to learn how to do water shaders. I want to learn how to do proper water shaders. Because if you haven't been at the streams for the game jam or seen the project itself, I literally just took a cube, made it 50% transparent, and colored it blue. That's the water. I would like to improve on that. So maybe water shader / physics in Unreal. Well, we'll just call it water. We'll call it real water. Real water. That would be nice to learn. Is there anything else? Maybe AI. AI. Well, that's kind of a given. I don't want to put things that are kind of a given. I want to put things that are like, think about this when you're working on the project. These are goals. I don't know. Well, I guess we can just say loot tables, because I haven't tried actually implementing loot tables before, so let's do that. Loot tables. Okay, I think that's pretty much all the target features here. Let me pull the board a little closer. Okay. Upright, please. Thank you. So we got weapon customization, which is putting the guns on the boat itself. We want to enhance that. We have ship colors, which is going to be, you know, exporting the model as white and then letting people customize the colors in Unreal Engine. 2-player co-op, which is going to teach us about Unreal Engine's multiplayer networking systems and framework, and who knows, maybe some other stuff. Like, I know a lot of indie games like to use Steam's networking for multiplayer. I don't know what the incentive is for that, So definitely something to look into. I want to learn proper water physics or shaders or whatever it's called in Unreal. I didn't even research this stuff, but I have seen other indie developers, both in Unreal and Unity, accomplish this in a fairly short time span. I think most of them said it took them a week to do it from scratch, and a lot of people say that they use resources online to teach themselves how to do it. So that'll be fun to research together. And then loot tables. I mentioned that I kind of know how to do it, but I haven't put that in practice. That'll be fun to learn. Absolutely not needed feature, but not complicated first-person mode. Ooh. Yeah, you know what? Let's add that. Where's my marker? There's my marker. Come here, you. Oh god! Oh god! What did I touch? What did I touch? Oh shoot! I have a stack of books on my desk. I almost knocked over that entire stack, and it's not small. That could have been bad. So let's step away from the desk first of all. Bring that marker back over here, and let's add just. Perspective toggle. Actually, Awen, funny you should mention that. That is actually a feature in the original Naval Ops Warship Gunner. Imagine you reach out, but instead of touching something, something touches you. Okay, I'm gonna sound like a bad person for saying this, but when I was getting my little brother into VR, that was actually one of the first things I did to him. I got him hooked on Beat Saber, and as he was playing, I poked him in the side. It was pretty funny. We're cool though, I swear. There's a spooter that slaps your finger. God, that would be rough. I would be more terrified if it happened to me though, because I live alone. So like, if someone's touching me, that's already a huge no. I have so many questions. Anyway, perspective toggle. Yeah, this feature is actually in the original Naval Ops Warship Gunner. I think how it works is that it goes into like the... I'm trying to remember, because I only saw like 2 clips of it. And it was like, you're in the captain's quarters. Quarters? What is it called? The bridge. You're in the bridge where like the captain and the crew steer the ship and whatnot. And you can like actually see it from a low perspective. Cruel would be if you showed them a horror game and waited until a tense moment. So VR horror games are like really, really popular. My brother and I actually tried to do co-op horror games through the Meta Horizon Worlds or whatever it's called, like the metaverse. And like we played, I think 3 horror games. Only one of them was good, but the more memorable one was one of the bad ones. Basically, it was supposed to be like, you're in an abandoned asylum, but like it's very clear the person didn't have a lot of experience modeling things, so the big environments were just big old boxes, and then all the key assets were like models from online. But at one point, you have to walk down a dark hallway. And on one side of the hallway, there's monster noises. And on the other side of the hallway, it's just pitch black for, I want to say like, we walked down the pitch black hallway for 2 minutes and nothing happened. So we were just like, the only thing spooky about this game is the atmosphere. Everything else is garbage. So we left. You should try Alien Isolation VR, also Mini Heart Attack Simulator. Okay, I'm already not good at horror games. I don't know how many people were there for the Halloween game streams that I did in October last year, but all of those games were horror themed, not horror games, and even those were kind of getting the heart pumping a little bit. So maybe another time. Maybe we'll do that for the Halloween this year, because I do want to play more VR games, and I want to give horror games the chances that they deserve, because most good horror games are just good games, period. It's just I'm bad at horror. Oh, and before anyone asks, we're not playing Outlast. Not because that game is scary, but But because, okay, this is a whole story. We have time. We have 10 minutes. So back in like, this must have been like 2018 or something like that. I was with this friend group, and that's like a whole other set of stories. But to keep it focused, at one point they said we should do a YouTube channel where we do Let's Plays together. And I was like, okay, well, what kind of games would we play? We only have one Xbox. And they said we should play Outlast. And I said, I don't want to play Outlast. I don't think that game is going to be very fun to play as a group. It's a single-player horror game, right? And they said, no, it's fine. You know, all three of us will record our voices and we'll just react to it together. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm the gamer of the group, so I'm like, okay, well, it'd be more fun for everyone else to watch you guys play the game, and I just react to it. And they said, no, you're the gamer, so you have to play the game. I'm like, fine, I'll play the game. And what infuriated me about Outlast, we played about 2 hours of it, two hours of it, and maybe you guys get it and maybe you don't, and it's fine if you're one or the other. I predicted every single jump scare despite it being my first time playing Outlast. And it was so frustrating because it was just like the level design betrayed the horror elements so maliciously. And it made me never want to play any Outlast game after the fact. And I think that's unfair. I really do, because like I've enjoyed franchises that have bad entries, and if those bad entries were my first, I still would have given the franchises a chance. But with Outlast, the issue was just so pervasive throughout the first 2 hours of the game that I was just like, if this is going to be the whole game, I never want to play this game again. We never ended up making that YouTube channel. We never ended up uploading that video, and that friend group dissolved like a year later. So like, it didn't matter at the end of the day. It's just a video game opinion from a one-off like playthrough, if you want to call it a playthrough. But yeah, I don't know. Outlast is one of those horror games I just can't bring myself to play, which is, I know it's an unfair comparison, but I don't know. I just can't think of myself playing it. Ooh, you know what I do want to play though? Horror themed again, not necessarily a horror game, but there was a small indie game that came out like last year in early access called Riptide. I played like maybe 6 hours of it with my buddies. It was really fun, but then they stopped playing it. I want to play it again because it's like kind of a looter shooter, but like space horror. Like it's Dead Space, but kind of a looter shooter, like low-key looter shooter. It was really fun. I kind of want to play that again. But we already have our weekend streams planned out, so maybe that'll be a next weekend thing. We'll see. Anyway, we're starting to run low on time. I got to take a photo of these notes. We'll close out, and then we'll pick up. We'll transfer all these notes into a proper design document as part of the start of tomorrow's stream. So let's push this board back. Here should be good. Yeah, that's plenty of space. Let's get the camera. Not you. Okay, right about here should be good. Yeah. Cool. All right. So let's recap what we accomplished on this stream today. So first of all, we recapped how Vtuber Tiny Jam 2026 went from our perspective, the lessons we learned, and the mistakes we made throughout the adventure, as well as some of the good things that we did. We did some good stuff. Number two, we plotted out what projects were available to work on for the future dev streams, and we selected Ocean War. And number three, we worked on very high level, but the design of what the full-scale game will be like that we want to target for this year. So for the game dev streams, we got at least a couple months planned out of what we're going to do. We'll start working on that during the weekday streams. And, hopefully, by the end of this year, we'll have a version of the game out on platforms like Steam and GOG so that you guys can play it and I can stand proud with my fists on my hip like this and be like, yeah, I made a real video game. Oh man, that's kind of arrogant, but that's where my headspace is right now. There's a really cool team-focused horror game called Species Unknown on Steam. Ooh, I've had a couple friends recommend it to me before. Let me check if it's in my Steam library already. So apologies if my hands freeze. Species Unknown. Ooh, wait, I can just go to my collections here. I think I have horror as an automatic tag thing. Yes, I do. Show me all titles. Species Unknown, Species Unknown, Species Unknown. Oh, yeah. It has a demo if you don't. I do own it. Good news, I do own it. I played 2 sessions of it. It is really fun. It's very violent Lethal Company, which Lethal Company's already violent. I love that. I don't know if I can get a lot of people to come play it on stream. At least my buddies. Can't speak to anyone I haven't met just yet or anyone who's willing to be on stream. But maybe that'll be an adventure for another day because it is a really fun game. In fact, I have I have a list of co-op games I want to play and experience, and it's just a matter of either convincing my buddies to join in on it, convincing them that it's okay to be on stream for it, or finding people to want to play it for a couple streams. But again, we have our next couple streams planned out, so let's not worry our little minds over it for now. But yeah, it was fun using this software for this stream. Maybe we'll do this again some other time. But for now, we're going to close out the stream, and we're going to just prepare for tomorrow. Tomorrow will be day 1 of the dev streams, so look forward to that. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Like, genuinely, it's amazing that people show up for this, because like I said earlier, the stream was for me, not for you guys. But appreciate you stopping by. Looking forward to working with you guys on this game.